Summer's officially here, and the bikini sale at shackshop.us is happening right now. Get hot styles, bold prints, and perfect fits, all on sale for a limited time. Whether you're beach-bound or poolside, we've got the bikini that makes you feel confident, cute, and totally summer-ready. So don't wait. Head to shackshop.us and shop the sale before it ends. That's shackshop.us, your new favorite bikini spot.
Catherine O'Hara has never fit neatly into Hollywood's idea of stardom, and that may be precisely why she has endured. For nearly 5 decades, she has been a constant presence. Not always the headline name, not always the romantic lead, but almost always the most memorable person on screen. She is an actor whose performances linger, whose characters feel absurd and intimate at once, and whose influence quietly runs through modern comedy like a hidden spine. From sketch comedy stages in Toronto to Emmy-winning television, O'Hara's career is a study in creative patience. She did not explode into fame and vanish. Instead, she accumulated trust from audiences, collaborators, and fellow performers, until, late in her career, she became something rare, a universally celebrated artist who still felt like a discovery. Roots in improv, where the career was really made. Born in Toronto in 1954, Catherine Ann O'Hara grew up in a large Irish Catholic family as the 6th of 7 children. The household was busy, loud, and full of personalities, an environment that, in retrospect, seems like a natural training ground for someone who would make a career out of observation and character. O'Hara attended Burnham Thorpe Collegiate Institute, an alternative high school known for encouraging creative expression, but it was after graduation that her path truly crystallized. In her early 20s, she joined the Second City Comedy Troupe in Toronto, one of the most influential incubators of comedy talent in North America. Second City was not about punchlines alone. It was about listening, responding, failing publicly, and rebuilding scenes in real time. O'Hara thrived in that environment. She wasn't the loudest performer, nor the most aggressive. Instead, she watched, absorbed, and then struck with precision, often stealing scenes with a single line, gesture, or facial shift. Among her peers were performers who would become legends: Eugene Levy, John Candy, Martin Short, Andrea Martin, Rick Moranis, and Joe Flaherty. It was with Levy in particular that O'Hara formed a creative bond that would span decades. SCTV, an unlikely launchpad for icons. That bond found its first major expression on SCTV, short for Second City Television. The sketch series debuted in Canada in the late 1970s before airing on NBC in the United States. Unlike the polished rhythms of Saturday Night Live, SCTV was deliberately strange. Sketches bled into one another, characters reappeared without explanation, parody often gave way to something more surreal. O'Hara was in her element. She played dramatizing soap stars, self-important broadcasters, insecure wives, fame-hungry performers, and people who didn't quite understand the world they were pretending to master. Her characters were rarely purely ridiculous. They were recognizably human, ambitious, defensive, needy, and hopeful, in ways that made the comedy sting just enough. Her contributions went beyond performance. O'Hara won her first Emmy Award for writing on SCTV, recognition of her structural understanding of comedy. She wasn't just inhabiting characters, she was helping build them from the ground up. For many performers, sketch comedy is a stepping stone. For O'Hara, it was a foundation she never abandoned. Hollywood's confusion and her refusal to simplify. When O'Hara transitioned to film in the 1980s, Hollywood didn't quite know what to do with her. She wasn't conventionally glamorous. She didn't project the breezy, likable studios often sought in female leads. What she did offer was specificity, and specificity can be risky in an industry that prefers broad appeal. Still, directors with an eye for the unconventional recognized her value. Martin Scorsese cast her in After Hours, 1985, a darkly comic odyssey through a sleepless New York night. Tim Burton brought her into Beetlejuice, 1988, as Delia Dietz, a pretentious sculptor whose artistic seriousness masked deep insecurity. As Delia, O'Hara delivered a performance that balanced satire and sincerity. Delia was ridiculous, yes, but she was also recognizable. She was someone desperately trying to matter, to be seen as important in a world that constantly undermined her. That tension became a recurring theme in O'Hara's work. Home Alone, warmth without irony. In 1990, O'Hara reached her widest audience yet with Home Alone, playing Kate McAllister, the mother who accidentally leaves her son behind during a chaotic Christmas departure. It was a role that required genuine emotional stakes amid slapstick mayhem. O'Hara approached it without irony. Kate McAllister was not a joke. She was a parent in crisis. That sincerity anchored the film, allowing its more outrageous elements to land without collapsing into cartoonishness. Home Alone and its sequel became massive box office hits and enduring holiday fixtures. For many viewers, O'Hara was now a familiar face, though few realized how deep her comedy roots ran. Rather than leveraging that success into a run of similar rules, O'Hara returned to character work. She chose projects that offered creative freedom over visibility, trusting that longevity mattered more than momentum. The Christopher Guest years, comedy without a net.
By the time SCTV premiered in 2015, O'Hara was already a legend among comedy insiders. What the show did was introduce her to an entirely new generation and give her the defining role of her career. Created by Eugene Levy and his son Dan Levy, the series followed the Rose family, newly broke after losing a fast fortune, as they relocate to a tiny town they once purchased as a joke. O'Hara played Moira Rose, a former soap opera star clinging desperately to her sense of importance. Moira could have been intolerable. She was vain, oblivious, and relentlessly performative. Instead, O'Hara made her transcendent. Moira's accent was unplaceable, her vocabulary extravagantly archaic. O'Hara famously expanded the dialogue herself, pulling obscure words from old dictionaries to Moira-ize every line. Terms like frippet, pettifugging, and unasynonymous became part of the character's linguistic armor, but beneath the affectation was vulnerability. Moira feared irrelevance more than poverty. Her absurdity was a defense against invisibility. Over 6 seasons, O'Hara revealed layers of humanity beneath the wigs and theatricality. Moira loved her family fiercely, even when she struggled to show it. She was selfish but loyal, vain but capable of growth. The performance earned O'Hara an Emmy Award, a Golden Globe, and multiple Screen Actors Guild Awards. In its final season, SCTV swept the major comedy categories at the Emmys, a historic achievement.
For O'Hara, it was a late career triumph that felt less like a comeback than a long overdue acknowledgement. Reinvention again. Rather than settling into legacy status, O'Hara continued to seek new challenges. She took on dramatic roles that emphasized restraint over flamboyance, earning Emmy nominations for her work on The Studio and HBO's The Last of Us. These performances revealed another side of her artistry, controlled, grounded, and quietly devastating. Even stripped of comedy, O'Hara's work carried the same observational depth. Colleagues consistently describe her as generous, precise, and deeply collaborative. She listens, she adapts, she elevates scenes without dominating them. The legacy of Catherine O'Hara. Catherine O'Hara's legacy is not defined by a single role, genre, or era. It is defined by consistency of excellence and a refusal to compromise her instincts. She has shown that comedy can be intelligent without being cruel, eccentric without being empty. She has proven that character actors can become cultural icons, not by chasing relevance, but by committing fully to the work. In an industry obsessed with novelty, O'Hara has built something rarer: trust. Audiences trust her to deliver truth, even wrapped in absurdity. Performers trust her to listen. Writers trust her to find dimensions they didn't know were there. She remains, quite simply, one of the best to ever do it.